Toni Bou versus Adam RAGA for the 4th time this season, but it's the first time in 2020 that Bou will be the man opening the final. The disadvantage mitigated somewhat by the fact that 5 of these 6 sections are familiar from previous phases of competition. The time element also slightly less important tonight, the sections having been slightly quicker this evening than in Budapest so far. Only 2 sections are to be completed in both directions. The opener is one of them. Toni Bou, outperformed in this section by Adam RAGA during round 1. He's first up here. Clean in the outbound direction, Toni Bou. Very efficient in terms of time as well. Now this first step here, we saw in round 2, caught out all of the riders for at least 1 mark. Toni Bou, he too will have to take a mark in the grand final, just as he did in the heat stages. 1 mark so far. He's good in terms of time. Can't afford to tarry in the latter stages of section 1. But he should be home within 1 minute. Toni Bou, 44 seconds, a single mark dropped. Adam RAGA has the opportunity to take an early lead if he can manage to clean this one. Outbound direction causing Toni Bou no problems. First step achieved nicely with plenty of momentum there for Adam RAGA. RAGA has generally been the weaker of the 2 in terms of the time element, but Bou completed it with 16 seconds to spare, so you fancy RAGA should be able to make it through this one as well within the 1 minute time allowance. This is the crucial step of section 1. Bou dropped a mark. Can RAGA manage it on the back wheel? Nobody's managed this clean so far tonight. And Adam RAGA is no exception. Actually, he labours over it somewhat, lands the sump on the first part of that obstacle and has to drag himself upwards. Good upper body strength, as you'd expect from an athlete of this level. And RAGA pulls himself forward and remains in contention here in section number 1. Slightly slower than Toni Bou, but it's going to be good enough nonetheless. We're all square after section 1. Adam RAGA with a single mark to his name, 52 seconds. 8 seconds to spare there in section 1. 1 apiece. Section 2, on paper, one of the easier of this grand final. A repeat of section 2 from the opening round. Both Bou and RAGA were clean here first time out. Drop marks here could be critical. We're all square after the opening section of 6 in this grand final of X-Trial Barcelona. Toni Bou. 3 victories already to his name in 2020. Another tonight would mean he only needs 2nd from the remaining rounds, and that would be enough to take the title. An important mid-season round in the context of the World Championship. Toni Bou positioning his front wheel carefully. He's taking his time. A whole minute to complete this section number 2. But only 42 seconds needed. Toni Bou is clean in section 2. Adam RAGA then embarks on the 2nd section of this grand final, needing to run a clean to match Toni Bou through here. RAGA 6 times winner of X-Trial Barcelona, 15 podiums here in total. Took his most recent X-Trial victory here in the Palau Sant Jordi last season by just a single mark over Toni Bou. Nothing to choose between them so far. With Toni Bou riding so well in the first 2 sections, it's Adam RAGA under pressure at the moment, despite the fact that he's the 2nd rider out. With that advantageous starting position well earned by victories in rounds 1 and 2 this evening. Adam RAGA then through in section number 2, matching Toni Bou's time identically, 42 seconds for each of them, and most importantly, matching his clean. 1 apiece. Into section 3 for Toni Bou. This is the first completely new section for the final, the rocks. This is where being first man out is a disadvantage this evening for Toni Bou in uncharted waters. Riders required to stay up on the rocks inside the section. Slightest error will be punished here. A very technical section, this one, number 3. Bou bridges, moving the back wheel around where he needs it to get himself traction for these remaining 3 islands. Comfortable once again inside of time. Shorter sections here this evening. Bou is home in 44 seconds, and it's a 2nd clean from the first 3 sections of the grand final. Adam RAGA again needs to match Toni Bou with a clean. Back-to-back cleans for Bou. RAGA looking to repeat that feat. Just a single mark halfway through the grand final for Toni Bou, a lower scoring final that we've seen in previous rounds in 2020. That means that every single drop mark will be critical. Nice work there from Adam RAGA, showing great form here this evening. Can he convert round 1 and 2 promise into a grand final result? The most he can be at the halfway mark in the final is all square with Toni Bou. 3 sections remain after this one, of course. Bou on 1 mark from 3. RAGA likewise. Looking for a clean in section 3. Taking his time here, but he's still well inside. 60-second allowance. RAGA on the back wheel. 51 seconds. He completes section 3. Back-to-back cleans for both Bou and RAGA. It's 1 apiece, and the 3 remaining sections will be the decider. Section 4. This one completed in the round 1 direction, but additionally now incorporating the challenging first step from round 2. That claimed so many victims earlier on this evening. Toni Bou dropped a mark here in round 1. Adam RAGA was clean. And the TRS man was the only rider to put off that massive step in the round 2 direction. Toni Bou then. Clean in the last 2 sections. What about this step? Nicely done on the back wheel. Avoids dropping a mark for leaning, and now it's this triple block step that is the only thing separating Toni Bou from a hat-trick of cleans in this grand final. His mind awaiting at the top of the section. Up goes Bou, and does it without dropping a mark on leaning. Super stuff from Toni Bou. Clean in section number 4. Just 1 mark drop from 4 sections, and once again, RAGA is the man under pressure. Any drop marks here for RAGA, and he will slip behind Toni Bou. Oh, that's a disaster! RAGA fails on the very first step of section 4, and suddenly, after being all square at the halfway mark, RAGA drops 5 marks behind. And Toni Bou suddenly has the upper hand here at X-Trial Barcelona. Section 5. Cleaned in the outbound direction by both riders in round 1. The return direction is new at this stage of the competition. Toni Bou looking to remain error-free here, to keep applying the pressure to Adam RAGA. Any drop marks allows RAGA a way back into X-Trial Barcelona. Plenty of red for Bou, who takes a mark there for leaning. He's through in the first direction in section number 5. This one the longest of the grand final sections, and Bou has used more than half the time, so he's going to have to push if he wants to get through inside 60 seconds. A failure on time is a 5-mark score that Bou can ill afford. He's rushing here. Takes a mark for leaning there. The sub, you could hear it as he came down, and it's cost him a mark. 3 from 5 for Toni Bou. Bou frustrated about that late drop mark, but he is still 3 marks in front of Adam RAGA. Any more than 2 drop marks for Adam RAGA in this section, and he will concede the X-Trial to Toni Bou. RAGA looking to capitalise on a slightly shaky performance from Toni Bou there in section 5. Next up, the first step that cost Toni Bou a mark in his outing just a couple of moments ago. And RAGA manage it without taking one for leaning. The revs rise, and RAGA's done it. Nicely done from Adam RAGA. Outbound direction complete. Now what will happen under time pressure in the second half of this section 5? No doubt about it, RAGA is up against it as far as time is concerned. He's being advised of the time by his assistant, and it is as close as you like. RAGA still clean, lands it nicely on the back wheel. He is clean in section 5, and RAGA pulls back 2 crucial points in the grand final to take us to a last section decider. First match point though to Toni Bou. If he can manage a maximum of 2 marks here, he will be confirmed the winner of X-Trial Barcelona in 2020. A different point of entry in the grand final, as you can see, compared to rounds 1 and 2. That's made things somewhat easier. Remember, only Jorge Casales made it past the initial step earlier on tonight. Toni Bou takes a mark for leaning there. but that is his only score so far. 2 final steps remaining. This for the victory here tonight. The crowd taking a deep breath. Adam RAGA watching on. Toni Bou could well confirm his victory here this evening. With Adam RAGA still set to ride section 6. The module moves under the weight of the bike, but Toni Bou has done it! Toni Bou wins X-Trial Barcelona in 2020, recovering the crown he lost in front of his home crowd last year. Adam RAGA then taking on section 6, but it's just for pride now. Toni Bou cannot be defeated. 4 marks his total for the grand final, a low-scoring lap. RAGA already on 6 after that 5-mark score in section 4. Real disappointment for Adam RAGA. RAGA making his way through this section 6. Does it nicely. Toni Bou took a mark for leaning there, remember. So RAGA continuing to prove his fine form at this stage of the season. But X-Trial Budapest slipped away from him on a tie-break. And X-Trial Barcelona slipped away from him with a failure in section 4, and he'll rue both of those losses. The championship could have a very different complexion to it at this stage. RAGA fails at the final hurdle in section 6. His minder catching the front wheel, but it's academic as far as the result is concerned. Toni Bou wins X-Trial Barcelona, and by a somewhat flattering 7-mark margin in the end. Win number 4 of 2020 then for Toni Bou, his 25th win on Spanish turf. Over a third of his 66 career X-Trial wins then have been recorded in his home country. A fine effort from Toni Bou this evening, so close to defeat in Budapest a fortnight ago. He made no mistake here tonight at his home event. Consolation finalists in Budapest, Gironi Fajardo and Gabriel Marcelli go on to their worst results of the season 2 weeks later, while Jorge Casales and Benoit Bincaz record their best finish with 3rd and 4th in Barcelona. Making it onto the podium for the first time is more than satisfactory, especially here in my second home in front of my friends and family. I'd like to thank the organisers. I'm delighted. I'm happy with my riding, topping the first and second laps, and in the end, second in the final after a pretty big mistake in section 4. I didn't give it enough gas, and I was a bit disappointed about that, but happy with my riding. The injury was improving, but little by little, it wasn't awful, but it did affect me. I managed to recover it all with a very strong final. We always knew Adam was going to push hard, but it's a very important victory in the context of the championship, and emotionally as well, because winning here at home is brilliant for me. Jorge Casales leaps from 7th to 5th thanks to his podium finish and closes to within 4 points of the bronze medal ranking. Mikel Jalabert is last of the event riders and eliminated from X-Trial Bilbao. With riders further down the order taking points from one another, a gap of 32 has opened up behind the top 2 overall, and Toni Bou leaves his home round with more than half of 2020's available points already banked. One hand on the trophy for Mr. X-Trial. Round 4 of the 2020 X-Trial World Championship. The 43rd edition of the prestigious X-Trial Barcelona. He too slips forward and down goes Toni Bou in section 4. Again, so far so good for Mikel Jalabert. Brilliant performance from Casales tonight. Adam RAGA is your top seed from round number 1. RAGA clean in section 2.
Barcelona for 2020. He's back on top in front of his home fans.